Israel has not provided any evidence to back up its claim. The Taoiseach says attacks on the Indian community in Ireland in recent weeks are sickening and disgusting. It's after he met with members of the Ireland-India Council earlier today. Simon Harris says Gardaí are taking each attack very seriously.
Some of what we have seen and the injuries that we've seen inflicted on people, and I think of the little 6-year-old girl in Waterford. Absolutely sickening, disgusting, despicable criminal acts.
A batch of goat's cheese has been recalled over fears of listeria. The Spar branded product is sold in packs of 100 grams and comes from France. Shops have been asked to remove the affected batch from sale and to put up recall notices. The Food Safety Authority said there's no link to previous recalls involving ready meals or mixed leaf products. And that's it for now.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. When the forecasts make it magnifique with Ryanair's low-fare flights to Nice, Naples or Nîmes.
Dry, cloudy and humid this evening with temperatures still up into the early 20s. Now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With UPMC Orthopaedic Care. When things don't move, rotate or bend like they used to, choose us to help you get back in action.
This is News Talk.
Good evening and welcome along to Monday night's Off the Ball. It's Eoin here with you until 10 o'clock this evening. Coming up tonight, we're going to have Rachel Sheahan with us from 7:30 to break down the All-Ireland Kamogi senior final yesterday. So she was at the victorious Galway team hotel earlier today. So we've got plenty of reaction from the tribe before 8 o'clock and a little bit between 8 and 9 as well. Also that hour, in the second hour this evening, we're going to have the Whiffen twins of swimming, of YouTube, of golf, it turns out, fame. So Daniel and Nathan are off on a trip around Ireland over the next couple of days, playing your Ballybunions, your Watervilles, your Lahinches, and they very kindly offered to pop into studio for a catch-up. An exciting time in their lives. Daniel obviously had to pull out of the 1500 freestyle at the World Championships recently due to appendicitis. He's due to get surgery on that, and he's also finished up at Loughborough University. So the times are changing for the Whiffen brothers, and they're going to tell us what is next for both of them. After 9 o'clock then, Nathan will join us for the football show in studio. Loads to discuss after the Community Shield yesterday, as well as plenty of Irish storylines in the Championship and in League One, and obviously in the League of Ireland across the weekend as well. We will have the Shelbourne game live tomorrow evening here on Off the Ball, a potentially huge night for the club, so we'll preview that with Nathan after 9 o'clock as well. Our number is 0879 180 180, and you can use that to send us a WhatsApp. Stephen Doyle's Monday News Round is coming up momentarily. Steve-O, how are you doing?
Good evening, Eoin. I'm all good.
Mick McCarthy, how are you?
I'm great. Usual burst into the studio at the very last second, so get my breath back during your intro, so all's good, yeah.
So just a quick one there, Nathan. He's going golfing with Daniel Whiffen.
Just call him Nathan.
Nathan Whiffen. Nathan is Daniel's twin brother.
Oh, so I thought you meant our Nathan Murphy.
No.
Oh, right.
Daniel Whiffen and Nathan Whiffen are going golfing together, yes.
Pretty bad to be taking your brother golfing, like when you know he's at one of his weakest moments, you know, he's suffering from the old appendicitis. It's going to affect the swing, surely.
We might have to chat about that actually after 8 o'clock. I would hope Daniel's not betting any money with his brother, who does not have to go under the knife anytime soon to take out his appendix. Yesterday was the end of the Inter-County Gaelic Games season. Yeah. Your 4 champions are Tipperary, Kerry, Dublin and Galway. What do all 4 of these counties have in common? Well, nobody thought any of them would win the All-Ireland. It turns out they were all written off by everyone. You can count up the amount of Celtic crosses that now exist in those 4 counties, and there is a precisely equal amount of column inches dedicated to how these teams would not win the All-Ireland. There's a precisely equal amount of people out there who said your county will absolutely not win the All-Ireland. And there was some really strong, we were all written off stuff coming from Kerry, some really strong, we were all written off stuff coming from the Tip hurlers as well. I think the Galway Camogie team have possibly had the strongest rebuke to being written off in the last week or two. You saw it straight away from Eilish O'Reilly on television. As soon as the full-time whistle went, it was the first thing that she went for. Everybody talking about the 3 in a row for Cork, but we actually had different ideas. Cathal Murray, the manager though, gave the strongest line, I would say, about what was said about the Galway Camogie team and the build-up. Have a listen.
Look, they're just an exceptional bunch. We knew training was on the money for the last 8, 9, 10 weeks. It's going really well, and we just backed ourselves. We were written off completely. You know, I don't know, the Irish Examiner yesterday, I think any Galway person reading that, or a player reading that, our player rating, I'll tell you one thing, go back and read it. It's absolutely insulting, to be honest with you. I thought it was the biggest insult ever, but that's coming out for the last 2 weeks. We were given no chance. We knew we were 3 points off in 2023. We were 3 points off for last year, and it's small little percentages. And we just made them up today and just won their round, and we're delighted.
I do appreciate the specifics of what he said here. When we were written off all week, can often be a little bit vague. I'm quite happy that he has pinpointed the exact publication and the exact article, in fact, that he is referencing. And very handily, when you go to read the comments on the Irish Examiner today, the Irish Examiner have actually hyperlinked the article from Saturday as well. So fair play to them. Yeah. They're owning this. And I must say, reading through it earlier on, I'm kind of like, this is preview material. Everything that's been written here is totally fair. You go through it. It's a player-by-player breakdown. There's a Cork version, there's a Galway version, and a lot of this is actually just asked in questions, like goalkeeper Sarah Healy, is her confidence brittle after semi-final mistake? ? Turns out the answer to that question is no. Fullback Roisin Black, Cork will seek to exploit her lack of match sharpness. Again, fair comment. It turns out Cork maybe tried to do that and failed in doing so. You've got Emma Hillibert struggles when turned and forced to chase. Guess, maybe that could have been something that was, again, you say in advance of a game and doesn't actually materialise. Anne-Marie Starr needs an improved showing on semi-final. Maybe she did improve. She had an improved showing on the semi-final. Perhaps the kicker in all of this that got under Cathal Murray's skin is that there is a section on the bench aspect here. Murray was far too slow to make changes in last year's final. Only one sub in before the hour mark compared to Cork's 4. And irrespective of whether management had trust in those sitting behind them, there were players out in the field who hadn't earned the right to last as long as they did. Again, probably totally fair comment on an All-Ireland final that Galway actually lost. Just because you've won this year's All-Ireland doesn't necessarily mean that any negative commentary around an All-Ireland that you've lost is automatically incorrect. The kicker is that the Galway ratings were done by Eoin Cormacan in Saturday's Irish Examiner, who is a brilliant Gaelic Games journalist and is also from Galway. It's like this Cork rag is writing us all off in Galway. Well, actually, he's from Galway himself, and they had 8 pages dedicated to the Kamogi final on Saturday. It was outstanding coverage. And look, I think you can say whatever the hell you want after you've won an All-Ireland, and fair play to GAA people, Gaelic Games people for speaking out and letting it all out there. By the same token, maybe it verges into the completely unreasonable at times.
Yeah, like having a go specifically at the Irish Examiner for Gaelic Games coverage, it's like borderline sacred cow. Like it's like going after TG Carr. You know what I mean? It's like it is like the coverage that they give is absolutely phenomenal and is in such detail and so multi-layered and so on. But at the same time, we had this conversation after Tip in particular one, because like every single pundit did tip Cork. And whether it's right or wrong, I sometimes never understand the anger, but it's what spurs them on. So these things matter, I think, more than sometimes the sophisticated pundit of the modern era is willing to admit. And there's a reason that every dressing room does it, and there's a reason that it has that reaction. I don't think it means a bad team can go and win against a good team. But if you're talking fine margins, the fired up anger, I think, works. Like talk to Joe Canning to this day about how the reaction of Kilkenny in the 2012 All-Ireland final replay, because of what they perceived him to have said in the intervening week, which, he never really said at all, but that didn't matter a damn. Yeah. You know what I mean? And how much that improved Kilkenny's performance from week 1 to week 2. You know what I mean? It's so measurable. Like, they can't... What was it? Were they not up for it? Did they not want to win the All-Ireland the first day? But they just had that fire in their belly extra. It really matters. I kind of always find it to be... I almost wish it wasn't the thing that drove on teams. But you have to come around to the fact that admit that it is.
Yeah, I don't. Like, interestingly, Cathal Murray did, in that same press conference that we used the clip from... not too long before he came out with that line, he did himself talk about last year's substitutions, that maybe he could have been better with the substitutions in the final. So that's an interesting little side note there. But like, that is sport, isn't it? Getting an edge by feeling you've been insulted or whatever, not just by your opponents but by anybody outside, and by saying, I've got to prove you wrong. Yeah, that's the ultimate way in gaining an edge in sport, isn't it? Like even when I was a kid playing tennis out in the street during June, and some fella was like battering me or slagging me off or whatever, you kind of go, I'm going to show this fella, I'm going to do him, like, you know.
Definitely, and it's going to be the case next year and the year after. It just feels, certainly for 3 of the 4 All-Ireland wins this year, it's been a massive motivating factor. Like, I'm not really sure the Dublin women's footballers necessarily had a lot of this fuel. It didn't feel like a big part of the aftermath, but for the other 3 inter-county champions this year, it felt like a big part. Like, one thing I'd just say, and look, I know Murray's not saying this at all, but like, calling something effing insulting after you've won, like, there's nothing insulting about what the Examiner wrote on Saturday.
Yeah.
Like, it should be, we should be encouraging more analytical discussion around the sport of Kamogi. And just because you predicted a certain outcome and the outcome is different to what you predicted doesn't make your analysis effing insulting. Now, he would have looked at it in a very different way, and he's totally invested in this. But I think the fact that, you know, that there was so much coverage of this, and clearly this managed to seep through to the team, in a weird way, is actually something that should be applauded, and is maybe a little bit of a step forward in terms of the way the sport is spoken about.
I hadn't considered it as a camogie thing versus other sports at all, really, but that's an interesting point. I do think, though, say for Tip's point of view, I think that was a very natural thing that would have seeped into their dressing room, and Liam Cahill would have used it, and everyone was, honestly, like, there was a procession element to Cork. I think as the week went on, the conversation got a little bit more nuanced, and people started to say, hold on a second, you know, but I can imagine that seeped through. I think from Kerry's point of view and from Galway's point of view, I think it was cultivated.
Yeah.
And I think this was something, because if you actually listened to the build-up last week, and, you know, we had Hayley Ryan on, who's I'm pretty sure you asked at the end, you know, you're predicted a Cork win, I presume, and she gave a long answer I would be 100% sure if she wasn't from Cork, her answer would have been Galway. She explained basically why Galway were going to win the game, and then said, but sure, yeah, I'll go for Cork 3 in a row, you know, because she's from there and has played for Cork and has played with many of these players. I saw an awful lot of the commentary around this game was 50-50 on a knife edge, one way or another it'll be close. That was the commentary I saw. So I think the fact that they were so quick, the fact that even before that interview, as you said, Asia Riley's interview was like, you know, nobody gets a chance. That was the first thing in their head. You know, what do you think of that Joe Brawley kind of stuff? Like, you know what I mean? That was what was there. Like, that's good management. Yeah, you know, because that was organised. That isn't what they actually would have saw.
No, it's very true. What shouldn't be lost in all of this is the fact that it was an amazing conclusion to an All-Ireland final. Just thrilling. And, like, I mean, we didn't have it in any of the other 3 finals this season. There might have been exceptional wins for Tip, Kerry, Dublin, but there wasn't an exceptional grandstand finale to any of those 3 finals, such was the quality of their performances in the final. So the red card added a different aspect to things. The late goal from Cork, I was fully sure was turning this towards a replay at worst for Cork. So it was a stunning conclusion. I
would have said Cork had it. It was an amazing moment, you know, because there was this sort of whole, like, Galway had a 4-point lead basically for the whole second half. It would go to 5, it would go to 3, but it was always about 4. They stretched it ahead to 5, and I actually sensed Cork's heads dropping. And in fairness to Cork, it lasted about 30 seconds and they burst back into it. But it was still, they needed a goal. You knew they needed a goal, and time was basically out. And then there was a delay for an injury, and Galway, for the first time, having defended Brittany, completely fell asleep. And they were 1-on-1, and I called the goal when the ball was in the air. You know what I mean? It was just one of those situations that was brilliantly taken and a great goal. And I thought, Cork are going to win this from here. You know what I mean? And it's like, Tip did this against Clare and Ennis, and it was making of their season. And obviously it's happened at a different end of the year than it did for Galway. But for you to take a killer blow and bounce back from it and get your winner on the back of it I think it says so much about a team.
Yeah.
And I thought that they deserved the win, I think, overall over the course of the game. But they missed so many chances when it was there to be put away between, say, like 45 and 55 minutes. The game should have been out of sight. It would have been a killer if they had lost that, or if it had gone to a draw and a replay. So the fact that they did it was just, it was the most exciting camogie final I can remember. It was the first time I remember being fully kind of like off the chair as a neutral as well. You know, like, it takes a little bit more. And there was screaming going on in our house, let's say.
Right, the Newsround is here with UPMC Sports Surgery Clinic. When things don't move, rotate or bend like they used to, choose us to help you get back in action. You are starting with yesterday in Croke Park, Steve-O.
Yes, indeed, Eoin. I can confirm that the victorious Galway senior camogie panel disembarked the team bus and crossed the Shannon on foot with the O'Duffy Cup earlier this afternoon. Celebrations at Duggan Park in Ballinasloe were due to get underway at 5:30. Galway, of course, celebrating a 5th ever All-Ireland Camogi senior title after Cathal Murray's side edged Cork out by 114 to 113 at Croke Park yesterday. Carrie Dolan converted a late free for the winners, with Cork playing the second half with 14 players following the dismissal of Hannah Looney shortly before half-time. The Galway panel and backroom team are scheduled to arrive at Claren Bridge at 8:30. That's the hometown of the captain, Carrie Dolan, for further celebrations. The Cork team were hugely disappointed, missing out on that first 3 in a row in 50 years, and none more so than manager Ger Manley, who was hugely critical of match referee Justin Heffernan.
Yeah, well, the point was the difference in the point. I thought Claude Finker pushed near the end. I thought the free that they got to win it, a super free by Carrie Dolan, but Gemma tells me that she throws it down, and I'm not saying she would do that now, but I didn't see it. But I thought that look, to send the off, was it? Like, there was loads of people inside in the hustle and inside that little huddle, as I said, and I thought it was harsh. But look, he's a ref. Yeah, make his decisions, but I thought he had a poor game.
And just to mention, the intermediate crown went the way of Offaly after their 14 points to 11 win over Kerry, and Laois claimed the Premier Junior title after 2-15 to 12 points defeat of Armagh.
Big reaction to the conversation around being written off there. Just very quickly on Gerard Manley's points there.
Like, it's not even to say he has I just wonder about coming out and talking like that after an All-Ireland final. It didn't seem to strike the right tone at all, I have to say. I don't know, it felt, I thought that the referee's openness, you know, before he said anything, I was seeing a lot of commenting about how well the referee had done, and it was mainly in the kind of let it flow way, and people are against that, I understand, and some people are for it, but it was the most physical camogie game I can ever remember watching, and I think that added to it and made it a better spectacle because of it. Now, did all the decisions go against Cork? You know, he points to a couple there that were probably a bit off.
The shove in the back was
the red card was a red card. I feel sorry for Hannah Looney because I thought it was a bit of a dive and so on, but that happens every day of the week. You strike, you're gone, you know.
Come on, lads. They could have been a bit more complimentary to them. Imagine you're in that dressing room and you go to pick up a newspaper giving great coverage and it writes you off. It's going to grind your gears. Maybe it was just an honest appraisal of maybe areas where Cork had target Galway, but take the point. Somebody's been in touch to say, normally tune into Off the Ball for sports, but yesterday I tuned into Galway Bay FM for unbiased commentary. It was hilarious. And then finally, Sean in Dublin's been in touch to say, lads, is there a bigger crock of GAA BS than everybody wrote us off? Written off is not the same as being not the favourite in a 2-horse race. Only absolute no-hopers are actually written off. In an All-Ireland final, no team is actually written off, which I think is a very good point.
England women's team were written off in the European Championship final, weren't they, against Spain?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so
I mean, it probably does, permeate into other sports as well. We will move on to another Gaelic Games story of a different kind, Steve. So what's the GPA announcement today?
Yeah, well, Clare, Limerick, Tipperary and Waterford are considering their next move after the Munster Council's decision to cede the Munster Senior Football Championship. A statement from the Gaelic Players Association has revealed that representatives from the 4 panels met via video link last week. Players from the 4 counties have expressed disappointment and concern over the decision. They have agreed to evaluate potential next steps in response.
What do you make of this?
I feel it's funny. It's actually, we really haven't had the opportunity to talk about it for one reason or another, but since it happened. But I think the fact that the Limerick County Board voted for it against the wishes of the players and management doesn't make any sense to me. Whether you think it's right or wrong, Cork and Kerry are obviously going to vote one way. You know, the Munster Council are obviously going to tie break whatever way, but it doesn't really make any sense that Limerick voted against their players on this one.
Yeah.
And that would be a big worry for me, rather than the outcome.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, I mean, I think it's protectionism and I think it's wrong, but I'm also not like massively outraged about it. It is what it is. It happened for years. But the issue is the deal or whatever it was that happened to make Limerick vote against themselves.
It definitely is an interesting wrinkle in a story where they're just trying to make the Munster Football Championship a little bit more relevant because the attendances have been dire over the past couple of years. We should move on to the rugby, Steve. Also, some good news in today's Ireland squad announcement ahead of the Women's Rugby World Cup.
Yes, indeed. The 2025 Six Nations Player of the Championship, Aoife Wafer, has recovered from knee surgery in time to take her place in head coach Scott Beeman's selection. Co-captain Adele McMahon is also included after her recent injury woes, but Christy Haney will miss out, sadly. A Munster hooker, Beth Buttimer, is the only uncapped player in the Ireland Women's Women's squad to play at this World Cup. Ex-England players Eleanor Perry and Nancy McGillivray and Connacht's Ivana Kiripati are all included in the 32-strong squad after being capped in the warm-up games. Ireland begin their campaign against Japan on Sunday week in Northampton before playing against Spain and New Zealand.
As I said earlier on, it is a huge week for League of Ireland champions Shelbourne. Tomorrow night they're in action, but a bit of a blow for them.
Yeah, massive blow. Centre forward Sean Boyd has been ruled out of that Europa League game tomorrow at Talca Park. The Dubliners entertain Croatian champions Rijeka in the second leg of their third round qualifier, leading 2-1 from the first leg. Shell's boss Joey O'Brien has revealed today that Boyd suffered a calf injury in the league draw with Bohemians on Saturday. I was at the game there myself at Talca Park. That news comes at a bad time as well, with the Reds also facing an FAI Cup third round tie against Dublin rival St Patrick's Athletic 5 days after the European match. There was no indication given today as to whether he is out for that game. It was of course a big shock for Rijeka to lose the first leg on their own patch last week. O'Brien still sees the visitors as favourites and also has faith in the depth of his squad in the wake of the Boyd news.
Yeah, 100%. This is a huge player, you know, and contributed really well. Even last week, started the game really well. But here, that's the name again, it's football. Obviously John went on last week and was brilliant as well, you know, so keep going back to it about the strength of the squad. That was an example of it last week. Overall, from the before the ball's being kicked and where they're at and where we're at, I suppose you were favourites and you are favourites. But again, 2 halves done, 2 halves to go. We're coming here to our place. We back ourselves to beat anyone here.
Now, Sligo Rovers, I should say, have been successful in their appeal against Patrick McLean's red card in the SSE Articity Men's Premier Division. The defender sent off yesterday for a foul on Saints striker Mason Melia, as referee Damien McGrath deemed it to be a last man challenge. A replay showed there was a covering defender, and Rovers boss John Russell expressed his frustration with the decision after the game, which his team lost. It was confirmed today the red card has been rescinded and McLean is free to play. This comes just a week after Rovers made another successful appeal given to their goalkeeper in the defeat to Shelbourne. Great to get the players back, but valuable points in their relegation battle lost.
For sure. Should also say as well that Shelbourne game against Rijeka is going to be live and off the ball tomorrow evening. It's going to be Vinnie Perth alongside Jonathan calling.
And not on TV.
And not on television as well, yeah. That's live from Talca Park from 7:45 tomorrow with all the build-up from 7 p.m. We've got transfer news then, cross-channel.
Yes, indeed. I'm excited by this one, I have to say, as a neutral. Everton have agreed a season-long loan deal with Manchester City to sign Jack Grealish. The deal includes an option to buy for almost €58 million. Grealish, who turns 30 next month, is now expected to undergo a medical and finalise his loan move to the Blues. It means the England international winger could be in line to make his debut in Everton's season opener against Leeds United on Monday.
Aston Villa was the obvious choice here, no?
Was it? Yeah. Have Villa not moved past Jack Grealish at this stage? Beyond like a kind of a homecoming for a sort of a sentimental romantic story.
What's his level at his best version? Because I don't think his the best version of Jack Grealish
beyond Everton.
Yeah.
And it would be probably even beyond Villa. I don't mean that, but I just wonder. I was thinking about this all summer and there's been no noise about it really, so that made me think that Monchi and Emery just weren't interested, because otherwise there would have been a bit of chatter, I would say. And it just seems to me, with the wages and with the impact that a character as big as Grealish at Villa, especially where he comes from, would just maybe disrupt things a little bit. Not to say he'd be disruptive, but I think there's a plan and there's a game plan, and there's probably a move of Morgan Rogers into being the main man this year that I think, you throw Jack Grealish into that, what happens? Just upsets the apple cart a little bit. So I just don't think it suits Villa in this part of the journey. I think fans would probably like it from sentimental reasons, but I haven't heard too much complaining about it. But it does feel like Everton, look, to be honest, Everton are the level we've been talking about them because where they've been for the last couple of years. But they spent money this summer for the first time in quite a while. They have moved into the new stadium. They've got the right manager, everyone would think, at least for now. And there's no reason to think that Everton are always going to be there. You know what I mean? Everton, Villa, Spurs, Newcastle, they're on that level. They just haven't been for the last few years. So it would be nice to see. But, it's got to be interesting. It'll be nice to see Jack Grealish play with the weight of the world off his shoulders. Now, whether that happens at Everton or not, I don't know, but I would like to see that again before he kind of runs out of his prime.
Definitely.
Yeah, I feel like it would be just an absolute, I think it'd be a car crash at Phil if he was to go back there. Unai Emery doesn't want him there because like it's going to be the Jack Grealish show. It'll be on Sky Sports every week, and Emery doesn't want that kind of hassle to be dealing with. I think it's actually really good. David Moyes is the manager, I think, who'll be able to get the best Jack Grealish. And I know what you mean about him being below his level playing for a club like Everton, but like what is his level now? Because it's a couple of years since he won the treble with City. That was his last kind of significant Premier League season. Last season he was kicking his heels on the bench for most of the season, and there are questions over what his ability is now, what his level is now. And I think David Moyes, just the manager, to kind of get the best out of him, and he's the kind of maverick player I think that will go down well with the Everton fans. They have aspirations this year, I think, for qualifying for Europe. Moyes can get them there. He's added a couple of players that can get them there, and I think Jack Grealish can definitely help them get there as well.
But just before we wrap, do you want to give us the Crystal Palace news?
Yeah, indeed. Palace lost that appeal against their demotion from the Europa League. The club brought its case to the Court of Arbitration for Sport after being punished by UEFA for breaching multi-club ownership rules. Last season's FA Cup winners will now compete in the Conference League instead. Nottingham Forest have been granted their place in the Europa League, and just to add, those two sides meet at Selhurst Park on the second week of the Premier League season. It's going to be an absolutely brilliant match.
And Nottingham Forest owner famously only in charge of one club, so multi-club issues there.
There'll be loads more on Palace versus Liverpool in the Community Shield yesterday in the football show after 9 o'clock. As I say, the Whiffen twins, Nathan Whiffen, not Nathan Murphy, alongside Daniel Whiffen coming up after 8 o'clock, and then our own Rachel Sheahan will be with us after the break to break down yesterday's senior Kamogi final. We're going to take a quick break, and before that, it's time for the cash machine.
News Talk's Summer Cash Machine.
Now, after our biggest ever winner last week, the cash machine